Welcome to The Game Changers, a series of powerful programs serving people who positively transform every relationship and situation by accepting personal responsibility for their professional, relational, financial, and physical wellness. Benefit from being reinvigorated and take yourself to a whole new level. Disrupt the status quo and take personal responsibility for your life. In The Game Changers, you'll learn to live in chaos, unleash untapped potential, focus on positive behaviors, awaken and empower yourself, become outcome focused, thrive in challenging environments, and take your relationships to the next level. Sponsored by Olive Media Network, the Entrepreneurs Network, and the CEO. Now, please welcome your host, Dianne Ojar.
Well, welcome to the Game Changers. This is Dianne Ojar saying, I am so happy that you're joining us today. We have, again, like I always say, extraordinary people sharing extraordinary stories. And why not? Because one day you might actually think about writing your story, is what we're going to be talking about today with our guests. For those who well, you know me, but for those who don't know me, I am an author, CEO. I wear many hats, my NLP background. I love giving people and sharing with them the ultimate experiential breakthrough experience with all the different modalities and the cool tools we have, because we all have some cool tools. We just have to know how to use them. But that's me in a nutshell, because it's really not about me. It's about the game changer we have today. And her name is Sue Kennedy. So please help me welcome Sue. And Sue, welcome to the Game Changers.
Thank you so much, Dianne, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Well, you are, let's see, the CEO and founder of Author Academy. As you will not be able to see in her background, but one day you will be seeing this. But however, most importantly, she's a publisher and she helps people share their story, which is something I talk about all the time. Share your story, write your story. You never know. Your story is healing. You never know where your story can take you. And this is what it's all about. So let's start off. Sue, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as you said, my name is Sue Kennedy. My business is the Author Academy. I am a book coach predominantly, but yes, I do help people, write their story and get it published as well. So I'm probably like a one-stop shop, so to speak. But I definitely agree with you that everyone needs to share their story. It's, and this is why I got into it. And the reason was because of what I went through. I went through a really dark patch in my life where I got into a very dark, deep depression and considered suicide. And thankfully I didn't. And I'm still here today to, help people. And because of all that, I decided to research, etc., and then thought, because I wanted to do it to heal myself, but then I thought, well, wouldn't that be awesome to be able to put that into a book and help others? And so that's what I did. And back then there weren't, people like me, like book coaches that could help. So, I had to sort of painstakingly work my way through everything. Had I had a book coach, it would have been a lot better because it would have been much easier. But yeah, so I went on to, of course, do a lot of other books, which, of course, has led me to where I am today, where I now help others get their books written because, people get stuck and sit on their books for years and years and don't complete them.
Well, thank you for that. And it's absolutely true. Sometimes we have a story inside of us, and our life experience is here. We don't experience life just because for the fun of it. That's not at all. We have a calling, a purpose, and the calling and purpose is for us to share, because we know in sharing is healing, but in sharing is also inspiring and motivating others as well. And I understand when I wrote my book, I got to think now, 12 years ago, it was because somebody said, it doesn't have to be Gone with the Wind. And I said, if you can do it, I can do it.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, I had no idea what I was saying at that point because reading books, when I was young, yes. However, one thing he did say is write what you know and what you're passionate about. And at that time, I was passionate about working in the bank, about identity theft and fraud, and I was teaching people. But lo and behold, I did not know there weren't books out there about it.
Mm.
Sat down and I wrote. Now I sat and I wrote in as I was having a conversation with you. Now I'm from Trinidad, okay? So some friends say, I can hear the island twang in there as well. And I wrote it in a male character, more or less, which I ended up changing to a female. A little story behind that. Because when I Googled it, I didn't want to, it was about, it was Mrs. Fraud. And, well, it is called Mrs. Fraud. And would you be the victim or victim when she comes stalking? But the reason I'm saying all of this is because when I said Mr. Fraud, it came up with one of an actor that was in jail. And I was like, no. That's not what I want. So you know very well when you write in a book, you got to make sure it's a unique name.
Yes.
Make sure you could find a domain for it to create. There's so many other factors you have to think about. And the graphics and everything else. So it's a masterpiece. It's a part of who you are. And the picture in front, people think it's me. It's a woman peeking through with her eyes, and my family still probably think it's me. It's not. So the book actually became me. So it is important, you're called the people whisperer because you really have to whisper to them and get into their brain and their psyche to understand because you got to pull that out of them. I've done training session about how to write a book and boot camps and so forth way down in the past that people still said because you can sit there and write a book and it doesn't take long to write a book at all. It doesn't have to be a huge thick book. So I
No.
understand what you're saying in regards, and of course I'm still writing the books and I'm working on a bigger project for the book, but I'm also learning how to format it and everything myself, which is really an experience. It's kind of cool, challenging. So I'm practicing on small ones first before I go to the big one. So yeah, and really and truly, books have now become a thing.
Mm.
It's now
They have.
become a tool. It's now become something that you need because you're following the big guys, and you have an audio, you have a book. The problem we have is when we get the book, we don't know what to do with the book.
Mm.
So why don't you tell us how you really started off starting to want to write this book? Because you talk about your life experience going through trauma. And I mean, there's only one person told me he never thought about suicide. And I was like, what? Are you human? Who has not thought about that or thing just to figure it out? So having that experience is your story. So please share with us your story, and hopefully your story will inspire anyone else, or it might do something else to someone and say, you know what? I am worthy. I deserve to live. I deserve to do something else with my life. So this is what we hope on the Game Changers, bringing these lovely people to you. And we're here with Sue Kennedy. Please do. Go ahead, Sue.
So yes, thank you. So look, it was a game changer, just a life-changing experience to be able to write a book. And it took me a long time to start with. I mean, I've now written over 10 books myself. And the thing that really I found, like I wrote the book, my very first book was on anxiety and depression because that was my life experience. And then I went on to write more books. I was actually invited to run a workshop on social media. And I thought, oh, how amazing would it be to actually have books to sell at the back of the room to these business owners? And so I had quite a few months, I think I had about 6 months to prepare. So I thought, I'm going to write some books. So I ended up writing 3 books to be able to sell to these people, which they did buy copies, so it was really good.
I'm going to stop for a moment. I'm going to stop you if I may.
Yeah.
Let's just backtrack what you said there. You had 6 months before the event.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You wrote 3 books in that 6 months?
I did.
Is it like ebooks, books, publish it?
Books. They published books.
Girlfriend, what goes off to you? Because writing the book is one, get it edited, published, and so forth. I don't know how big the books are, but printing is a whole nother story. So
Exactly.
I had to stop there for a moment. I had to I just wrote 2 ebooks last week within a couple of days. That's just the ebook. If I'm going to print it, I don't know. However, that is quite, what's the word? I'll find it. Accomplishing, but that's not the word.
Achievement.
Achievement. Hey, you guys have to say kudos to her because that is not an easy. That's very time consuming, by the way.
But on top of that, I had to create the presentation that I was going to present to them as well. So that was, another big. That was pretty much like writing a book.
Yes.
So
You should write a book. You should write a book on the whole concept of what to think about writing the book and the process of that. Because again, that's the whole issue. And you're doing the boot camp and you're doing the workshops, but it's the ABCs. And it's like I said, it's not, if there are systems in place, but definitely. But yes, I'm sorry. I just had to stop there for a moment with the 3 books in 6 months.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, so I was very proud of myself to do that and accomplish that. But I was actually part of a networking group at the time, and I was the vice president at the time, and I went in and I had my 3 books had arrived, and I went to the meeting, took my 3 books, and said to the president, "Oh, look, my books arrived." And she went, "What? I didn't know you were doing this." So she jumped up, started the meeting, and then said, "Okay, I want everyone's attention. You will not believe what's happened. Sue here has written and published 3 books, and here they are." And, they all knew me and spoke to me, but I hadn't really been seen up until then. After that, they came up to me after the meeting. Everyone was talking to me, buying my books. And honestly, they just completely changed the way they looked at me and thought of me. And I went, if I would have known that this was going to happen, I would have done it a long time ago. So it gave me that authority, the credibility. So, people looked at me in a different light. So honestly, if you're in business, especially, this is something you need to do. It's a must-have as a business owner.
Absolutely. And they look at you as the expert. There's 100,000 books out there, but you're the expert. It reached, you were always taught and trained to introduce yourself as being an author. But when you did that, that's all people want to talk about. They want to talk about anything else. So you reached a point where I stopped telling them I was an author first, because then you could have an actual conversation that it includes books and so forth. And it has gotten me into place. And yes, it's a tool, it's visibility, because you're no longer, when you give yourself permission to write the first word in the book, you're no longer the same. And I always go on social media on the spot. I love putting people on the spot and say, I'm an author, because it just changes something. So yeah, the visibility part is huge, and anybody who's in business, use it. It doesn't really matter. It does matter to a certain degree if you write a book that's aligned with what you're doing. But regardless of what your book is about, people just want to know you wrote a book. You can write a book about anything. They just want to know, oh my gosh, it puts you in a whole different category.
It does. It really does. So, and it doesn't, like you were saying earlier, that it doesn't need to be a, really big, thick book. It can be just like, if it's about your business, for instance, regardless of what you do, but, if it's something that's going to help them move ahead with their life, then that's all you just need to be the one to show them how to do that in your book, because you've done it. You do that in your business every single day. And these people that are reading your book don't know how to. So you're showing them how to do it. So again, like you say, you are the expert. And they do look at you in a very, very different light. And all of a sudden you'll have clients coming, left, right, and center, which is fantastic. And that as business owners, that's what we want. But on the other hand, writing a book about, because I've helped a lot of people write books about like healing themselves, but not just the fact that they heal themselves, that they actually, by writing their story of what they've been through, they're helping others. Like a lot of people say to me, well, who would want to read my story? Like, how's my story going to help them? You don't know how it's going to help. Like, even if you just help one person, you've made a huge change in that person's life. Like, I had a lady that she wrote a book about, she'd been writing a book about her daughter for about 35 years that she'd lost at the age of 6. She had cerebral palsy. And so she I met her, I was teaching at a class, teaching creative writing at a class and for the college. And she said to me, she came up to me and said, oh, do you do one-to-one coaching? I said, I do. She said, great, I'd like to book a time with you. Because while we were going around the room talking, I had this voice, and I know it wasn't me, come in and said to me, I said to her, you need to finish this book and you need to finish it now. And I thought, what? I mean, I know now it was her daughter. It was her daughter passing the message from me to her to get her to finish it. And with my help, we did finish the book. And the things that she put into that book were really, really awesome, because she said, oh, I don't know. I said, no, you need to have all this information in there, because someone else going through this, situation of having a child with cerebral palsy, you're helping them. They may not have thought of the things that you have done as your daughter was growing up. Sadly, she didn't grow up to be old, but, she taught them so many things. And it was fantastic that she was able to record this into a book to help others. So, this is what you need to think about when you're writing your story. How can your story help someone else?
It's so true. It's you never know whose life you can save as well.
Exactly.
Whose life you can save. I have had all types of books given to me, presented to me. And like you, I would go to an event and something would come up and I would say, you need to write a book or you need to do a show. And they look at me like I was nuts at the time. And I've spent, like you, countless hours helping people who have actually produced a book. And, they're credited and they thank you and so forth. And I've had the first copy from the very first copy and so forth. But I've seen books that it's so small, fit like in the palm of my hand, and it's just about quotes. And it's simple. And these are some of the books that you see in the airports and stores that people can travel with. Even the book I have basically was done in a very specific size. So we can put it in your pocket. And I created, I'm very layman's term. So I created in a way that even a 10-year-old can read it, or a 100-year-old can read it in about 3 hours. Depends on how fast they read.
Yep.
It was all factual as well, because we had emails that I got for fraud and scam and so forth. So you just have to use the imagination. And you're right. I had to rewrite the book because then I did in a female version of it. And because of the island twang, I had to rewrite it a little bit. But I sat down there, I just wrote. And while I was writing the book, something said, just write the children's version. And I did. I made many attempts to publish that, many attempts to get the graphics. And for some reason, it just never materialized. However, so be it. It probably will one day. Maybe because I'm getting more creative now, I can work on my own graphics which is what? And I've given it to the police. I've given it, they loved it. It's just that the graphics and the drawings I wanted was a little specific. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I can do something myself. But these little things, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as you publish something, that's all they're looking for. Even newsletters. The fact that you can create a newsletter for information, people are like, oh, you're right. Well, it's a little different. Yes, but take it one step further and get something in somebody's hands and to sign the thing, man, sign it, because nobody is going to. Actually, one guy was giving me books. I said, but I don't see mine in there. He said, it must be there. He was moving. But I'm going through and sorting. There's so many books in this room. And I'm like, I sorted out the ones that signed to me are not. And it really is challenging for me to look at a book as signed. I don't remember who these people are to give it away. So that's what they do. People go back. I know people have gone back to find me when they couldn't find me years or 5, 6, 10 years. So sign the book, put a phone number, put something there. So that is really crucial part of it. Just don't give someone. It's people you've given people books and they hold it against their heart because they're so happy and they're so proud. So
I remember the very first book when I received it in the mail. Oh my goodness, I cried of tears of joy. I was just so proud because I knew what went into it. And to get that book and see your name on the front, and that in itself, I think is just huge. It makes you feel so strong and confident and just full of joy. It's just the best feeling ever.
Yeah, I got my book at for my dad's birthday at the printers, and it was just before Christmas, 5 days before Christmas, and it's just ironic. And you always say, make sure it's you're told, you never know, the moment is the moment. And I remember there, and I have an amazing publisher, not publisher, sorry, printer, and I took the book out, and it's a picture I still share from time to time because you're right. How did your story manifest into this book that really pushed you, guided you in a divine way? Because we know our intuition, our gut is guiding us to want to share and write your story. Why did you want to open up? You went through trauma, you went through so many things. Was it because you just, in the intention of you wanted it for yourself to say, I'm going to put it down, or the intention of, I don't know if it's going to help someone? It's a self-healing, it's another healing. I don't.
Well, to start with, I did it to help myself. And then realized, or started thinking, well, what if, there's other people going through this? I need to share that with others so that, I can help them. As I said, if I just help one person by sharing my story and how I dealt with it, then it'll resonate with someone at least. I mean, I've sold lots of copies of it, so obviously it's resonated with more than one. So, your story is going to help someone else. Definitely.
Did you start writing it in your deepest moment when you were just dumping everything out and just letting it out? Because most people wait until, I feel a bit better, I'm going to write this. I can see you writing this story where it gets, because you're in the moment, what you wrote, also the way you wrote it, the energy behind it would have been really deep and strong. So your message came out even if you were much better and you wrote the same words. The feelings that you had is not the same. So when people are reading it, they can understand that because you went deeper.
Exactly. Like I also went through cancer a few years ago, and I've written like bullet points. I haven't actually written that story yet, but I have written bullet points so that I can go back and, go feel into what I was going through at the time. But it's not going to be the same. You're right. So it needs to be really done when as best as you can, of course. But the closer you can do it at the moment in time that you're going through it, the better, because it's the true feelings that are coming out, and it's going to be a much more impactful story.
Do you journal a lot?
I do, but I do mine more like with art than I do writing, interestingly, because I do both. I love to write, but I love to also paint, and I do paintings to like exhibit and sell, but I also do painting to heal. And like with my coaching program, I actually do both. So I include the art side of it, the therapeutic art side of it as well, to help people.
My girlfriend in Australia, she does beautiful mala arts and she she doesn't do anything with it. You should see some of this stuff. Oh my goodness, she used to do a long time ago. And she's just giving him away. As you must be crazy. So
Wow.
art, because I use a lot of transformative art calligraphy, which are very healing and very special, very powerful. Like right now, I've been doing all these shows, and yesterday I was thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to go through the day? Because I have scoliosis, and if you wouldn't believe this, right now I'm sitting with one of the books, which is called Dalby, which is well, it's for the back, Dal back, and I'm sitting it because, and I haven't had the pain. But yesterday it's because my spine is not straight, there's a lot of pressure there. So it's actually helping. So transformative art is
Mm.
amazing.
Yes.
It's not the regular art. It looks like Chinese calligraphy, but it's more than that. And I'm
Mm.
telling you, I haven't felt anything. And it's
Mm.
right now in my back as we speak. So books have a purpose. It has a purpose. You can hold up, you can have like a bookmark. You can have it, a book stand. You can read it. It could be therapeutic, and it also could be healing.
Mm. Definitely.
There's always art you can do with books. What are some of the things you encourage your students to write about? Some of the most common things that they write about.
I going it's along the lines of what we've been talking about. I encourage them to do a brain dump. So just everything that's going on or is inside, just get that out onto paper or computer, whichever, so that you get it out. Because if you hold it in, it can turn to disease. So we need to get that out. And then once you get it out, that's when you work out what you put in, what you don't put in. It also enables you to then heal from that because you're getting it all out. And also it stops you and makes you think, well, hang on, there's another, that I forgot about that piece. I need to add that in. Or, some of the things, as I said, you've added in and you go, yeah, I don't know if I want to share that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to share that. You only share what you want to share. But that's my big number one thing, is that I get them to make sure they just brain dump everything.
That's the same thing, the goal setting. Do you work with fiction or no more nonfiction or mixture?
It's no, it's more. I attract more people that are nonfiction. So business owners, people that are writing their own stories. They're probably the main two that I help.
It's easier to work with that niche because even if you're writing a novel and so forth in a sequence, you have to be really, really talented to come up with a storyline. Whereas
Mm.
you're coming up, first of all, of course, we know you got to know what you want to do with the book. I must have given away more of my books. I even sold my books because of the intention at that time. I promoted my book for a whole year. I actually first interview I only got the business card that day. I didn't even have the book. It's a year after, when I got so tired of everybody asking me, where's the book? Where's the book? After the interview, I said, no more interviews until I print the book. That's what I decided. And then my husband said, well, what's going on with the book? And I decided, okay, I'm going to really focus and get the book out. For the
Mm.
whole year, I traveled all over. We got recognized for the book in Trinidad and so forth. But again, it's just talking about it and talking about it. It really gives you a face. People put a face to get to know who you are. You can take it to wherever you want to take it to. But
Exactly.
you have to know that you can't hide. I've had people who wrote, this is years ago, maybe 5, 6 books, and they said it was on the shelf. And I said, why? Then why write the book? Now they come out and they're speaking more. Because if you look at the time frame, let's say 7, 8 years ago, possibly, give or take, people casually would write books. Now it's a thing. But they casually would write books, but they didn't know what to do with it.
Mm.
It was not the norm to tell people you're author or to show people you are author. It really, you had it, but it was just dust on the shelf. Now you're bombarded. Everybody is doing shows visible, and it's great that the fact they have a face and there's visibility and it's positioning. How do you see yourself being positioned as an expert, as a coach, as a publisher out there in the business world?
Look, it's a big thing getting recognized, and marketing is a very, very huge undertaking. It's probably, well, it is not probably, it is the biggest part of being recognized and getting well known. I'm not well known. I think I am getting out there, and I'm positioning myself for more and more people to recognize who I am and what I do. But you do need to set yourself up and as you said, Dianne, is that, well, what is the end goal? What do you want to achieve? Now, whether that's me as a book coach and a publisher, like, what do I want to achieve? I mean, mine is to, of course, help as many people as I can achieve their dream of writing their book or about their story. But what is your end goal with your book? So if you want to run workshops about your book, is that your goal? Is it to sell lots and lots of copies? Is it to be the expert in that particular topic that you've written about? I mean, that's sort of, I think what your goal is how you then try and position yourself to be recognized. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I so get you, girl. There's 2 things it's coming to my mind now. There's a myth that people think if I write a book, I'm going to get rich.
No.
I wouldn't say my take yet. Let me hear your take on that.
Look, if you position it properly, so we'll go back to the positioning and the marketing, then you can sell copies, but you have to work at it. You can't just publish the book and go, look, here's my book, and expect a heap of people to purchase. Like, I get a lot of people that say, my book's on Amazon, but I haven't sold any copies. Okay, have you told anyone that your books are on Amazon? No. Well, then how's anyone supposed to know that they're there? It's the same. I have a bookstore. People say to me, have you sold any of my books? I said, well, I've done my part, but have you told anyone that the books are on my bookstore? No. Don't people just come there? Well, no. You have to tell people that where your book is and how to get it. You have to continually, constant. It's got to be a constant thing. Every day you need to do something towards getting people to know where they can purchase your book and why they should purchase your book. Because otherwise, you're not going to make any money. They're going to start collecting dust, sadly.
Apart from that, too, when I had my book on Amazon, actually people stole my book and resold it back on Amazon. I still had to I still signed it. I still did the shipping and everything. So it was there, and I taken it off Amazon a long time ago and did an investigation too. But the point is, it's still coming from me. So having Amazon never did anything. They may see it, but I still had to do all the work because I had it in my possession. Had to ship it, had to sign everything. And doing some of the other books now, and in those days, Amazon did not do fulfillment and so forth. It was very difficult, especially for self-publishing. That's a whole nother story. So yeah, there's lots of platforms you could put it on now. But to me, and it also costs almost twice as much when you put it on there because of the shipping and everything else. Right?
Exactly.
That's a whole other story that I didn't want people to have to spend in the excess of so much at the time. There was no Amazon shipping or free shipping Prime and stuff in those days. So technically speaking, it was pretty much double the price.
Yeah.
If somebody is going to get the money, it's definitely not some of these platforms, I'll tell you that much. Or you have the on demand, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what ends up happening is if you put it on Amazon, is you're probably lucky to get a couple of dollars profit every time you sell it. So it's really not worth it. And and I'm not putting Amazon down, because Amazon is just a business. They have all kinds of products, and that's all your book is. It's just another product in their shop. So, they don't advertise it just for you. I mean, if they did, you imagine how much extra, like you'd end up having to pay to have your book on there if they did that. So
Yes, and thank you for sharing that, because what we're saying here right now, we're not here to discredit anyone,
no,
everybody who's doing things, and we know people, and we just having a very frank, open conversation here. And the fact that, people say I'm an Amazon bestseller and so forth because, the downloads and so forth, so they tend to push it, and good for you. However, at the end of the day, what happens after? So please do understand, I'm here with Sue Kennedy. She is a people whisperer and also a publisher, an author, and more. I have a burning question, which always, I don't know if I should ask this, but we're going to talk about it. Anthology books. Now, I have been in a few anthology books, but not everybody who approaches me. It's just one person, and it depends on the book. It's okay. I have many anthology books that were given to me. But again, one of the things I know, and maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, I apologize. However, at the end of the day, people say I am. You see, words are very powerful, and how you position yourself and how you credit yourself. And it's very important to say if you are an author. Now, to me, this is just my interpretation, because I came from a space and a time before we had anthology. Well, I shouldn't say before it was so popular. I'm not knocking it. I'm just giving my opinion, please. When I have people saying, I have been a contributor, or they're paying to be with some big names, because I know some of them didn't do anything. It's not doing anything. And I don't know if it's the reason because some people give them the credit, or somebody, because this one, the girl who I've done a couple things with, she promotes like crazy. But at the same time, when you have someone who's a contributor, I personally believe, for my own self, I would say you're contributing to that book, but you're not an author. Let me explain that. Reason being, my interpretation is an author is somebody who's done it from cover to cover. Oh, to the process. Whether you ghostwrite it or get help, but now it's all AI and stuff. It's okay, because you gotta feed it information to get the information. So I'm fine with that. The process. So you understand the process. So you can say, and I did, and say, I wrote my book. And the best feeling is when you're on national TV, which I've been on, you've been on, so forth, and look in the camera and look forward and say, I wrote that book. there's no feeling, because I don't feel that when I talk to someone that said, I'm a 4 times author. I'm not disrespecting my girlfriends, guy friends, please understand. All I've been saying to them is start to write your own book. The feeling is very different. What is your take on that? But congratulations to everybody for just writing a chapter, but it's a chapter. I want to see more than just a chapter.
Exactly. And if for someone, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I don't believe you're an author until you've written your own book completely. But it's a great place for someone to start if they're, maybe just like feeling the water, so to speak, just dipping the toe in the water and finding out if, how that feels and going through the process. And then, to gain the confidence to be able to do it themselves. But I agree, like one chapter, like, I want to know more, especially if it's something really, really interesting. I want to know more. So why stop at the one chapter? Like, we can't get to know you in one chapter. Not unless you're absolutely amazing, which I'm sure you are. I'm sure everyone that does this is amazing. But yeah, I'd love to know the whole story.
I have known some organizations or groups that keep pumping out volumes and volumes and volumes, and some other groups as well. And people, and you're seeing all different topics now, and it's just coming out left, right, and center. And at the end of the day, the contributors, I guess the question also I'm saying is, politically, how should you brand yourself? You're not, in my opinion, you're a contributor. You're not an author, a 4-time best-selling author. That means you've done amazing. Show me your 4 books.
Mm.
Right? So we see it from old school. But if you're going to be 4, 5, 6 books, because I know some people who are, isn't that time you take time and you could, because you want to spread your network, which is great. Don't get me wrong in that. But at the same, if you're going to be going out there and say, I'm a 4, 5, 6, and I've heard these words, an author, then pick up yourself and write one. Because I would look at someone and say, okay, where does it stop? You're also feeding with someone and say, well, I get to leverage. Leverage is great. But isn't it time you leverage on yourself? Leverage off of what you did, where you position now? So to everyone out there, I'm saying this as a disclaimer on behalf of Sue and myself, is the fact that, yes, start, feel how it feels to write a chapter. But if you're going to go further than that, maybe the second one, fine. But by the third time you decide to do this, start doing something on your own. It is very different. The feeling is very different. And
I'd like to throw a challenge out to these people.
yes, go ahead.
I think take that chapter you've written and expand on it. Like, how can a story fit around that one chapter? Like, build it out so that it becomes a whole book that is just written by you.
Oh, and by the way, when we say chapter, we're talking about 2,500 words.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
So technically speaking, it depends. It's not even a chapter. It depends on the size of the book. Because if it's a smaller book, yes, you get more pages. So it looks like, yeah, you got a chapter. But if it's a bigger size book, 6x9, or a much bigger book, you get maybe 2 pages, maybe 2.5. What can you tell? So we're here to say, from old school, please take Sue's challenge and write something that you know about and you're passionate about. And one piece of advice I got from an editor who didn't edit my book because he was too busy, and he sent me to another editor, but she was amazing. She doesn't edit anymore, so I wasn't very happy about that. Write for the other person. Remember the island twang thing I talked about? It is. You have to write for the other person for them to be inviting. And that stuck with me. Those two things stuck with me. Write for the other person. That is why you're there. To let them know how you can help them. Please share with us your thoughts on that.
No, I 100% agree. It's, please don't go to the grave without sharing your story, is what I say to a lot of people, because your story does matter and you are good enough to write it on your own. You don't need anyone else. You don't need to be in other people's books. You write your own story, because they're just getting a little snippet of you. We want the whole of you. We want everything that you've got to share.
Now, we can't close this conversation without just talking very briefly about the AI technologies out there. There are lots of tools we have out there, which have its pros and cons. And yes, it can help build confidence, how to use it and so forth. And it's really great because I use it for different things. Only sometimes when you want to articulate conversation, you want to articulate certain things. Yes. And they've come a long way with that. What are your thoughts on some of those AI platforms that's available, which pretty much can be a really good tool, a resource for someone who is really getting their feet wet?
Look, AI it's great, but it's more, I highly recommend that you just use it to generate ideas and to help you along those lines. Because AI, it doesn't have emotions. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your story. If you want to get some ideas, of course, put that in. But as I said, it's not you. It's not your story. They can't write your story. Only you can write your story. So, one of the things that I would suggest is if you get stuck, because writer's block is a big thing.
Yes.
I actually have a which I'd like to offer for your listeners.
Yeah,
I've got a page. So it's www.authoracademy.com.au/gifts, GIFTS. And on there's a few different resources. But one of them is a 30-day writing challenge. And what it is you get an image each day for 30 days. You look at the image for 5 minutes and then you write for 15 minutes. And it's amazing how that can unblock you and the things that come out of that. And the more you do that, the more you exercise that side of your brain to allow you to be able to write. But I always say to people, write in your voice, not someone else's. We want to hear your voice, the way, you write the story, not someone else. This is why I'm a bit not so happy with the traditional publishers, because they want to write the story that they think will sell and they completely rewrite it. And I disagree with that. I don't like that they rewrite someone's story. I really don't like it. But anyway, that's the way they do it. And some people are happy with that. I'm not. I want to hear their story.
Well, the people rewrite it because they believe the publishers know best. And by the time you go down to the publishers and it comes down to you and distribution and everything else, it's pretty much you're just out of the picture. Unless you have somebody to support that, like speaking and all these really cool things. You just reminded me of a story. A publisher here, and he approached me a couple of times. And one night, late at night, I had a 3-hour conversation with him about the Mrs. Freud and You. And most publishers will not want to republish a self-publishing book, but he was willing to. So he was part of a group, and I said, okay, I'll entertain the conversation. But he wanted to change, is it the name of the book or something? And I was like, no, I'm not changing anything in the book. And the thing about the self-publishing for me was that I could do whatever in the world I wanted to do with it. It was my book. My book, my book. Don't tell me anything else. I can sell it if I want. I could give it away if I want. I could do whatever I want because if you go to a publisher, you not only have to you write the book and they're paying you or so forth. You also have to produce sales. You have to
Mm.
market it. All these things. So that was something that I was like, and then when he broke it down and explained to me, for in terms of distribution worldwide, and it comes down to me, and you're at the very end. So if a book costs $20, you might get a few pennies, less than $1. You gotta
Yep.
sell a lot of books.
Exactly right.
So
So
that
why not do it yourself and make a few extra dollars that you deserve for all the hard work that you put into it?
and that's the other thing too, why I sell my own books, is because I would say to people, okay, I would include the shipping and so forth. Even the one I have, I include a boot camp for them because it's a very specific book about goal setting and so forth and achieving goals. So it's a little different. But if you have to go to, my first choice would be, let's work together. And this is how you meet people as well. I mean, for my book, I have Jane Watkins, and there's a foreword, David Meltzer, and Francisco Quintero, and we have about 20-something plus people contributing. Well, not just a contribute, answering 5 questions, but the foreword, I could have gotten multiple more forewords, and for a reason. Make the book your own. Nobody could take that away from you. Even the 10 books that you have, nobody can take that away from you.
No, exactly right.
So where can we get a hold of? I know you said it before. If someone want to find out more about your books, and we will put it on the link, of course, get to know more about you. Where can they do that? I know you said it really quickly before.
Yeah, so it's www.authoracademy.com.au/gifts, GIFTS. And then, as I said, there's some resources on there, but there's also a spot there where you can contact me, and I'm offering a 30-minute free heartstorming session to help wherever you are on your writing journey, whether I can be of any help, and we can just take it from there.
Absolutely. And it's AU for AU, right? Because she's in Australia. Just to let you know in case you missed that part of it.
and haven't recognized the accent.
Absolutely. What are your, a message you would like to leave with everyone? Or maybe share an inspiring quote or something that motivated you. Anything you want to leave with us today?
Look, I think my biggest thing is pretty much what we've been talking about is please just share your story. Like, share your story with others because it will help other people. You may not believe that, but trust me when I say every person that I've helped, their book has made an impact on other people's lives. So please let your story have an impact on someone else's life in a very positive way.
Thank you. And one of the things I may, if I can add on that, is people are seeing the books and they're seeing you, but when you also have that, you have a intake brainstorming conversation, like you said, as intense as you want it to be, you will start actually telling them your story in person. And then they get to understand really where it's coming from. Now, they don't realize that when they're hearing your trauma story, how it helped you uplift you, you evolved and you transform. That was the key. That was the most important part. The book is not the part. That
No.
was the key part for it. So you really get to know. So I say to you, reach out to Sue and find out how she can help you, to any one of us, how we can help you. Just get you started. And if it's a chapter at a time, great. But why not write a chapter at a time for yourself? Start there. You finish the book one day. You can contribute to many others if you choose to. But I want you to feel that feeling when you look into that camera or that interview and say, yeah, I wrote that book. Because I could tell you, one of the persons who motivated me when they say, no, write this book. And I was like, you know what? I can do that if you can do that. Little did I know. And then years after, we were at the event and we were having a session in the morning. And I asked a question because I used to ask a question to people. So, did you write your book? And his face, and he looked at me, and he was really one of those guys who was very prominent in the organization. He was the vice president. And he looked at me, and I could see it because he couldn't say yes. And then he said, no, he didn't write the book. I am telling you, sir, so that moment was a moment of disappointment. Because it was written. Now, don't get me wrong. When you someone who's ghostwriting or helping you write the book, even if you get assistance in the air, you go and you change it up and make it personal. It's helping you with the words, articulate. You can proofread. You can do all these things. But I'm telling you, when he said that, my face just dropped, and I didn't pretty much trust anything he was saying after.
Yeah, no.
Guy. But I don't think he's with other person anymore. But that was a moment of real disappointment because you're teaching people what it is. I'm not really a fan of somebody else's. I've been in other people's books where we exchange, information or advertising and so forth. And I remember a good friend of mine who had that space at the time. He wrote the book, and it did what it had to do. Don't get me wrong. But you can tell the first 6 pages, okay, and then after that, it was like completely different conversation energy, and I never picked up the book again after that.
So someone else has written most of the book.
Yeah, it is a ghost written, but you could tell the difference in the styling. And it maybe because we're so used to seeing things through different eyes, even conversation. Like if I look at a movie or I look at a training, I look at the training for the styling, for the way it's the outline, and that's how I analyze things because my brain is working a little bit different. I may know the information or not, and don't get me wrong, I pick up, but I'm looking to see, okay, what did they do different? But that also was a book. I looked in it for something else, something at a chart, but I never read the book, although I'm in the back of the book. So you wrote a page or a chapter of 1 or 2 pages about me and, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it was. So I want to say, is there anything you want to leave us with? In addition, do you have a quote? You're a writer and author, so you need to have a quote.
What came up for me while we were talking is be the inspiration that someone else needs.
Be the change you seek. In other different words, you can say it. You want something, do it, and show people that it can be done. Awesome, great. We will end on that one, definitely. So if you are wondering, first of all, thank you, Sue, for
Thank you.
Our audience here. If you're thinking, stop thinking. If you believe, start believing. Because if you think, you will second guess everything that you're thinking about or even come to the consciousness. But if you believe, there's hope. If you believe, it can be done. We don't know you, but if you're here listening to this, we know, and you're still here listening to us, we know there's something in the back of your mind wants to come to the forefront. Right, Sue?
Yes, exactly.
So take the leap of faith. You don't have to do it alone. First time is always the most challenging. And then it's not new anymore. Then you get your creative side starts kicking in, and then you just want to write 10 books like Sue. Not to mention 3 in 6 months. Like, what was she thinking?
Um,
But again, this is not Sue we're speaking about. This is you we're speaking about. But if Sue can do it, well, I shouldn't even say that because I wrote, I mean, with the help, of course, but simple ebooks I can do in less than a week. But it's simple ones just to open up the mind. It's not to save the world. Lots of quotes and so forth, because sometimes it's quotes that get you going. Sometimes these little things get you going. A simple, easy read is what gets you going. And this is what we're saying. Do something that's simple. Use the SMART acronym, and do it. Just do it. So on that note, I want to say thank you to Sue. I want to say thank you to you. We want to read it, share it with us. Come on to tell your story. And if you're not quite sure, connect with us. Put a comment, share. If you want to share your story, you can come on here and share your story and see how you. This is the thing about the game changers. You can change people's lives socially, economically, environmentally, all financially. That's who you are. And that's who we want. Sharing is healing. It's plain and simple. So thank you for listening on the Game Changers. This is Dianne and Sue saying, we want to read your book. We want to read your book. We want to read your book. And we want you to sign a copy for us. So take care. Have an amazing day. And let's all celebrate the next step and journey in your life. All the best. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Game Changers, sponsored by Olive Media Network, the Entrepreneurs Network, and the CEO. Hit us up online at thegamechangers.ca, mediaolive.ca, and think10.ca. That's think10.ca. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.